I used to love Disney when I was a little girl. I had every lunchbox, water bottle, backpack, and notebook with Mickey's face on it that I could get my 6-year-old hands on. I would doodle the clubhouse characters during class, and I would ask to go to Disney World every year for my birthday. My family wasn't the wealthiest, so the answer was usually no. My dad would work overtime, and my mom worked 2 jobs, so I would spend a lot of time at home alone. I would sit on the couch and watch reruns of my favorite shows and movies until I passed out, and I would always wake up tucked into my bed. It was to my surprise that after asking to go again for my 7th birthday, they finally said yes. My dad had gotten a big promotion, and they combined the bonus that he received with money that they've been saving up just for this occasion. My parents have helped me so much in my life, but there aren't many other times that I can remember feeling as much love for them as I did when I opened my birthday card and saw a Disney World brochure. I couldn't wait to go. Unfortunately, I had to wait another 2 weeks for the upcoming long weekend. I couldn't focus in school that entire time. I was too busy thinking about all the rides and characters that I get to see. I woke up early Friday morning with enough energy to fly through the ceiling. My parents had been up packing, so the car was already ready by the time I finished my breakfast. We hopped in and set off for Disney. The park was around 4 hours from our house in Tallahassee, so we left early to have time to explore the park for the day. It was around 4 a.m., and the streets were pitch black. The drive was mostly uneventful, and I used my portable CD player to watch old Disney movies that my mom kept lying around. I was halfway through Cinderella when we stopped for gas. The rest stop was pretty dingy. There were some gas pumps for cars and diesel for the trucks, as well as a gift shop for snacks and drinks. The gift shop was quite big, filled with rows of junk food and medicine. I went in with my mom while my dad stayed with the car. While we were shopping, I saw a Mickey-shaped cup and ran to grab it. And when I turned around, my mom was gone. I started to panic. I ran through the aisles calling for her. After a few frantic turns, I ran into something hard and fell on my back. When I looked up, a large man with a gray beard and rough skin was staring down at me. "Hey there, Missy. You lost?" he asked me. I was frozen in fright at the size of the man. He towered over the aisle, his width taking up the entire space in front of me. He reached his hand out, and I scrambled back down the aisle. I was running now, not daring to look back at the frightening stranger. I turned the corner and ran straight into my mom. I hugged her tight, crying. She stroked my hair and comforted me, but my sense of safety was quickly broken when the man approached us. "Be careful with her, hun. Don't want a kid getting lost around here." My mom muttered a reply that I couldn't hear through my own sobbing. The man eventually left, and my mom carried me back to the car. My dad was worried, but my mom reassured him that it was just a small accident. The next hour was quiet, and I quickly forgot my fear from the gas station when I thought about Disney again. I drifted off with thoughts of cotton candy and Mickey years. I woke up to a hushed conversation between my parents. They were talking in short, clipped sentences, and their tone made my heart start to race. The inside of the car was filled with harsh light. I looked out the rear window to see a black car driving closely behind us. Brights on. My parents were raising their tones now, and I looked past them to see a large trailer in front of our car. The semi-truck had its rear lights on, and it looked like it was slowing down to meet us. We were driving down a 2-lane highway in the middle of a swampy area, and the road dropped into thick mud on both sides. My mom was telling my dad to get over and pass the truck, but another car quickly sped up from behind the black car and pulled up to our left side, blocking us in. The windows were tinted black, and I couldn't get a good look at who was in it. I did see silhouettes, though. The car was full. "Daddy, who are these people?" I asked innocently. My dad turned around to face me, and there was a look of sheer panic on his face. He quickly hushed me and turned back around. In front of us, the trailer doors unlatched. They swung open, revealing a single man standing inside the empty trailer. He was wearing jeans and a work jacket, and his face was covered in a black balaclava. He quickly rushed to the back of the trailer, then bent over and pushed something along the ground. Something appeared over the edge of the trailer, and after a few moments of pushing, a ramp slammed to the pavement, sending up sparks that made it hard to see in front of us. Something hit hard against the back of our car, and I jolted in my seat. By this point, I was overwhelmed. I started crying, scared for my life. Who were these people? What did they want with us? I turned back to see the black car behind us pushing our car forward. The car to our left turned closer to us, pinning us against the 15-foot drop into the mud below. My dad slammed on the brakes, pushing me forward. The car screeched in defiance of the pushing, but our car was old, and I could feel us moving forward. My mom was crying too, pleading with my dad to turn into the mud. "We'll be stuck, Maggie," he howled. "Nothing to stop them from grabbing us." I could hear the frustration in my dad's voice. He was gritting his teeth, still keeping pressure on the brake. Sunlight was just starting to come out, and I could see to our right that the mud was steadily turning into grass. "Daddy, look," I said, pointing out the window. An exit sign flew past our view. Our front fender scraped against the ramp, wheels not yet making contact. In an instant, a turn of road opened up on our right, and my dad veered off of the ramp, barely making the exit. We sped off of the highway. The group was still going, and I could see their cars more clearly from farther away. I could see the man in the trailer, sticking his head out, looking at us. There were gray specks of hair poking through his balaclava. We spent the rest of the day in the hotel, with my parents talking to police about our encounter. I was shaken up by the event, but I was mostly sad to miss Disney for the day. We ended up going the next day, though, and I remember that weekend fondly. I'm 16 now, and not many birthdays have topped that one. I don't know who those people were, or what they wanted with us. I'm just getting my driver's license, and despite everything I've learned from driver's ed, there's one thing that they didn't teach us. Never drive behind a semi. I was lucky when I was a kid. I lived in the country and had open-minded parents that didn't really care where I went, what I did, or how late I stayed out. Call it bad parenting if you want, but they trusted me to not get into too much trouble. I, of course, still did get into trouble, but not of my own making. Usually. Khalid was my best friend. He lived right next door, and during the summer, it wasn't a question whether or not we were going to hang out. It was understood that we were, every day. He was older than me by 1 year, and kind of acted like my big brother. When crossing a small stream or walking through thorns, I'd hop onto his back and he would hoof it with no complaints, even though many times afterward, blood would trickle down his leg. I never really saw him get scared. Not of anything, really. except for the last day I ever saw him. One day in early July, we decided to backpack with snacks and Capri Suns and hike through the wilderness to a big, beautiful oak tree that we favored among so many around the area. This tree was perfect for climbing, had plenty of shade, and was the ideal place for two kids to chill on a summer afternoon while discussing video games and naked ladies. We walked over 2 miles without any problems, but as we neared the tree, I swear I could just feel this looming sense of something different. Not necessarily something wrong, just different from the norm. We had done this same walk and climbed this same tree dozens of times, and I had never had this feeling before today. We reached the tree, both of us sweating. It was hot as hell that day, and I was anxiously waiting to gulp down 80% of my water that I brought. As we climbed the tree, I heard something. It sounded like someone or something was below us, but when I looked down, nothing was there. We settled onto the fattest branch that was great for sitting, with maximum shade. Khalid unzipped the pack and tossed a turkey and cheese sandwich at me. Laughing as I almost dropped it, I said, "Dude." He laughed and responded, "Relax, I knew you wouldn't." We began eating and talking. He was going on about a substitute teacher that he had earlier that year who he swears had a crush on him. Meanwhile, I was carving Goku into the tree right next to the faded cloud strife. Suddenly, a man spoke from right below us. "Hi." Khalid stopped mid-sentence, and we both stared down at this man like a couple of deer about to get plowed on the highway. Honestly, this man had scared the living shit out of me. We were in the middle of nowhere and had never seen another person around here. I was frozen, but Khalid replied, "Hi." The man looked as if he was intentionally trying to look creepy. He wore a dirty plain white t-shirt and what looked to be old brown slacks that were missing the button and were only being held up by the zipper. He had long brown hair that was slicked back into a ponytail. He stood there with an exaggerated upwards glare at us. Imagine standing right up against a tall skyscraper, putting your chin up to it and looking straight up. That's what he was doing, all the while smiling from ear to ear. "Can you come down here, please, so I can show you this cool thing I just got?" I looked at Khalid, shocked at his question. Khalid, without missing a beat, replied, "No thanks." The man's smile vanished and was replaced by utter devastation, as if you just told him his house burned down. The way his expression changed in an instant was nothing short of terrifying. "That'll break my heart, baby. Look, it's so sharp." Now, I'm honestly not sure which was more alarming, him calling my friend baby, or the giant butcher's knife he revealed from behind him. He held it up so we could see it clearly. It looked brand new and shined as if it were covered in olive oil. Khalid usually didn't show fear or hesitation when it came to adults, but at that moment, when I looked at him, expecting him to shut this guy down, his eyes were wide, and I saw them fill with water. In that moment, Khalid's reaction made this real. We were in a very serious situation. Khalid looked at me for the first time since this stranger appeared. I could read his mind. He was scared and had no idea what to say or do. Somehow, don't ask me how, I summoned courage I didn't know I had and said to the man, "It's really cool." The man shifted his gaze from Khalid to me. "Get down here." His smile returned. The courage I just spoke of was gone in an instant. My eyes welled up. Khalid forced words out, and I could hear that innate protective instinct he had for me. "He's not getting down. We just got here, and we're just hanging out. not being bad. Those last 3 words haunt me. To this day, they haunt me. When Khalid spoke those last 3 words, I could tell they were spoken while holding back full-on tears. I'd never heard him sound and act like a little kid, but in his pure fear in that moment, he sounded like a 6-year-old. It was heartbreaking. He was scared. I looked down at the man, tears streaming down my cheeks at this point. "You're not in trouble. I just want to show you this and I'll leave. Promise." The man could definitely see that I was crying, and it didn't seem to bother him, which was absolute confirmation to me that he was in fact there to do us harm, of some kind. What happened next is the reason I have therapy 3 times a week, for over 20 years now. Khalid looked at me and shut his eyes tight, preparing to unveil every ounce of courage he had at his young age. "Okay, I'll come down and see it. Just for a second, then we have to go." The man smiled wider somehow at this. "I thought you said you just got here. What's the hurry now?" Khalid hesitated, and responded after 4 or 5 seconds. "I know, but his mom said we couldn't play anymore if I got him home late." I looked back and forth at Khalid and the man, having zero clue what was happening now or what would happen next. Good idea. Better get home before it gets dark. That's when the monsters come out. The man's smile abruptly vanished again. "Come on now, get down. Hurry up." Khalid looked at me, and I shook my head as tears erupted from my eyes as if to say urgently, "No." Khalid whispered, "I'll be right back." I started shaking my head and was mortified to see the man smiling and staring at me as I looked down as Khalid descended. When Khalid was in reach, the man put the knife away and with both arms grabbed Khalid's arms gently. "Here, careful. I got ya. Here, come over here and I'll show ya." The man started walking Khalid away, and he looked up at me one more time, with pure fear on his face. The strong, protective big brother was gone. They disappeared from my view, and then there was nothing. It was as if nothing had happened. I was sitting in this tree alone, and for a moment I imagined that I had made this trip solo, that Khalid was safe somewhere else and all was fine. But it wasn't. I heard nothing as I focused on hearing anything at all. Minutes passed by like hours, and eventually I came to the horrifying conclusion. They were not coming back. Adrenaline started to kick in now, and I needed to get down, to see where they were, to leave, to just not be in this tree by myself anymore. When I reached the bottom with the backpack tightly strapped, I looked around everywhere. Silence, and nothing. They were gone. I realized I had to get to adults, now. I had to let them know what happened. I ran, faster than I ever have before or since, and when I reached my house, I threw up on the front lawn from exhaustion and desperation. My mom was on the phone sitting on the porch. She promptly ended her call and came to me. The details from that point are typical. Calls were made, searches were done. They didn't find Khalid. They didn't find any trace of him at all. It's been many years, and I think about my friend who was taken almost every day. I'd rather find out what happened to him than anything. I'd rather know than to win the lottery. I'd rather know he was killed than not know. Not knowing has made my life black and gray, sadness and without faith and goodness. The only thing that helps is telling myself I was wrong. The strong and protective big brother never left him that day. It was never gone. It's the only reason I'm telling this story now. He was my brother, and he protected me. I think he knew what would happen, but he made damn sure it wasn't going to happen to me. And it's not something I will ever take for granted. I have this hobby of watching kids shows, even though I'm in my early 20s. I don't know why. Might be my autism or something, but I just like it, and that's all there is to it. When I get home after a boring day at school, I'd go to my room and watch anything available on my TV. Basically whatever's on Netflix or Stan, YouTube or Prime. It just makes me feel nostalgic again. And everything was all good, until he appeared. I don't know who he is, or what he wants, but even if he doesn't mean any harm, I don't know if he can be trusted. It happened 1 week ago. I was watching an episode of Arthur, I can't remember which one, with a hot plate of garlic bread and a cup of Pepsi. Midway through the episode, I noticed something in the background. It looked like some kind of character, but all I saw was just a black stick figure, standing behind a tree and observing the characters. I couldn't see him very well because of the show's quality, but I ended up shrugging it off. Must have been a small animation error. But last Thursday changed my mind a bit. I was in my bedroom once again. I was taking a break from the god-awful homework assignments, and to kill the boredom, I decided to watch Detention Air. Watching cartoons always put me at ease. It helps relieve stress from everyday life. Then I saw him again, peeking behind a corner. But I could see this character clearly this time. He looked like he was wearing pitch black clothing. His white skin was so bright that it almost looked like it was glowing, and his baggy eyes were a pale pink, not bloodshot eyes. I only got a good look of this character because as soon as he appeared, I paused the show and examined him like a captured wild animal. As I looked at this thing, I could already feel something was very wrong about him. It wasn't that he didn't match the show's art style, or his design felt Tim Burton-esque. There was another feeling. Dread. I snapped out of our staring contest as my mom called me to take out the trash. I shook my head and looked back at my ajar door, calling back that I was coming. Then I looked back at my TV, and, as you would expect, gone. "It's nothing. I'm just tired," I said to myself quietly, getting up as I leave the room. I wish that was the answer. I really do wish that this character was a result of my mind being an asshole to me. On Saturday, my uncle came over for a barbecue dinner my mom and dad hosted. My uncle really loved crime drama shows, especially Breaking Bad. Tonight, I saw him watching Better Call Saul, and honestly, Saul Goodman was my favorite character. I never really liked drama shows, but I give both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul exceptions. I was in the living room watching an episode and I was getting sleepy, so I prepared to get off the sofa when I noticed someone. He was just sitting in a chair, like he was waiting. As we made eye contact, something then hit me. He was never observing any of the characters. He was observing me the whole fucking time. "Hey mate, you okay?" my uncle said, noticing me freeze and staring at the TV so intensely. I shook my head and excused myself, fast walking to my bedroom. The sightings kept getting more frequent. I saw him in shows like Teen Titans, Futurama, DuckTales, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Seinfeld. Yeah, even that. I'm not joking. And so many more. He was always hiding in the fucking backgrounds. And just as I thought I was going insane, it all suddenly stopped one morning. I was watching My Little Pony. I know, deal with it. And I expected to see him again. But he never showed up. I checked other shows, but he was never there. I was relieved, but when I went to the kitchen to make myself breakfast, my dad comes in and asked if I left the living room TV on last night. No, I didn't. Why do you ask? I reply, with a funny little smirk. Well, someone did, and all that was on the TV was just plain old static, my dad replied. Weird, I said, still jokingly, but at the same time, I felt a little unnerved. This brings me up to last Wednesday night. Me and my parents were having dinner at a pub, and we unexpectedly meet one of my dad's many friends, and he wanted to do a selfie with us, so we did just that, although I was hesitant. When we got home, I got a notification from Facebook that my dad's friend had just posted our selfie, so I went to check it out. My dad, Mom, and the friend are making dumb, silly faces, while I was closed-mouthed smiling. This photo looks perfectly Wait. Who is that? I look closely at the background, and I nearly let my phone slip from my trembling grasp. He was behind us, outside the pub, peering through the glass, staring into the camera, and at me. Any of my family members or friends haven't noticed him, like I'm the only one who can see him. My TV in my bedroom hasn't been used in a while. I don't want to get rid of it. My dad did give it to me after all. Just 2 days after the night at the pub, I was home alone with my dog Max. He's a Kelpie, and I still couldn't get the image of that character out of my head. So I basically locked me and my dog in my room, fearing that he might be in the house. Not even a minute later, he begins to whine and growl at the door, but no one tries to open it. No jiggling the doorknob, no knocks, nothing. This went on for 2 minutes before whoever was outside my bedroom walks away. I could hear faint footsteps going downstairs. I've also locked the window and closed the blinds, just in case. Whoever, or whatever he is, I hope he leaves me alone soon.